Hi everybody! Welcome to the second tutorial video for Imperial Commander. In the first video I covered the basics and how to prepare a campaign. In this video I'm going to dive deeper into the app and tell you how to actually set up a mission. Once more, please keep in mind that I can't mention every detail in these videos, so if you have any questions, make sure to hit the official wiki. The link is in the video description. Let's begin. Imperial Commander offers you the flexibility to play any mission you want, regardless of campaign. To do so, however, you need to set some things up. Once you get used to it, this is pretty quick and easy, but at first glance it can be a bit overwhelming. I'll explain the settings in detail, but if you want a more comprehensive overview, just read the Playing a Mission section in the wiki. To get to the mission selection screen, simply click or tap New Game on the start screen of the app. At the top of the mission selection screen, you can determine general mission settings, such as the difficulty and threat level. Below, you can select the enemy groups according to the campaign guide. At the bottom, you can set the heroes you want to play as well as any allies. Before we dive in, let me talk a bit about difficulty. The printed Imperial Assault campaigns are balanced for play against a human player. Some of those missions work better with Imperial Commander than others. That's why the app features a lot of options to set the difficulty to your liking. The most obvious one is of course the difficulty setting. There are 3 settings available. Medium is the default. Easy reduces the threat the Empire gets each round and occasionally downgrades elite groups to regular groups. Hard, on the other hand, increases the threat and occasionally upgrades regular groups to elite groups. Additionally, you can freely set the threat level. While setting the threat level according to the campaign guide is a good start, you might want to increase or decrease it. You can also give the Empire a head start by handing it some additional threat at the beginning of a mission. And finally, you have the option to select Adaptive Difficulty. When Adaptive Difficulty is turned on, you gain fame for defeating enemy groups, but part of that group's threat cost is reimbursed to the Empire. The more groups you defeat, the higher your fame, but the more threat can the Empire bring to the table. Fame allows you to select some additional rewards at the end of a mission. You can play around with the difficulty settings as much as you like until you find something that feels right. My baseline is medium difficulty, starting with the threat level as determined by the campaign guide, then increasing it by 1 or 2 and turning adaptive difficulty on. During the mid or late game, when the heroes are more experienced, or when playing a particularly effective team, maybe switch to hard. Okay, let's talk about how to set up a mission now. The first thing you should do is select the mission you want to play on the top left. I'm going with Chain of Command from the core game for this tutorial, but every published mission is available. Once you selected the mission, you can view the mission card by clicking or tapping the View Card button. For every mission, specific mission information is available. Mission information contains useful info for playing the mission. I'll go into more detail in the third tutorial, but you should open it right at the start because some missions will have a special section about how to set up the mission. Once you selected the mission, set the threat level according to the campaign guide. Either use the scroll wheel or click and drag left or right to set the threat level. If you're on a touchscreen, swipe left or right. Most side missions also start with a certain amount of threat, usually twice the threat level. Also, many missions start with an optional deployment. If that is the case, switch optional deployment to yes. Since Chain of Command is a story mission, I'm not doing it right now, but I could if I wanted to set me an extra challenge. Next, select the desired difficulty level. To the right, you can choose which factions the app uses for open groups. By default, both factions are turned on, but some missions exclude one faction. Chain of Command, for example, doesn't allow mercenary units, so I'm just going to switch them off. The last thing you have to decide in the top section is whether or not to use adaptive difficulty for the mission. Let's do it. Alright, let's move to the enemy selection. The campaign guide clearly tells me which groups I should select for the initial and reserved groups, so I'm just going to do it. Give me a second. As you can see, the list doesn't feature any unique villains. I can't set General Weiss as a reserved group. That's because villains are handled differently by the app. They cannot be redeployed once defeated and they are never deployed randomly. I can only deploy them manually. I'll show you later how this works, but for now let's just leave the reserved groups empty. Next to the reserved groups are the earned villains. If the Empire earned 1 or more villains during the campaign, you can tell the app here. Any villain you declare as earned has a 50% chance to be added to the open groups. This is to make sure they actually appear from time to time. After all, they are the stars of the Imperial forces. Last are ignored groups. Ignored groups will not be added to the open groups. You can use this to select any group you don't want to see or groups that do not fit. For example, for chain of command, groups like snowtroopers don't make much sense. Simply select all groups you don't want to see in the mission. Ignored groups are also how the app handles figure packs. Groups that you only get if you own the figure packs, like the ISB infiltrators, the hired guns or the Java scavenger, are automatically added to the ignored groups. If you own the respective pack and want to use them in a mission, just remove them from the ignored groups so that they can show up. So what about open groups? You don't have to bother with them. In Imperial Commander, open groups are determined by threat level, not by the mission. The app automatically creates the Imperial hand from the available groups. You don't have to set a thing. Yes, that means that even in missions with officially 0 open groups, the app will create an Imperial hand to use. I recommend just rolling with it, but if you want to remove groups from the hand, I'll show you how in the third video. That's it for the Imperial side. Now you need to select your heroes by simply clicking or tapping on them. You can also choose to bring an ally with you. Some missions give you an ally at no cost, but if you're bringing an ally on your own, make sure to turn threat cost to yes and click optional deployment at the top. And that's it. You're ready to start. I'll show you one more neat trick though. With the disk icons at the top, you can save the current configuration. Just click or tap the green disk. Now if you start a new game, you can simply click or tap the yellow disk to load the saved configuration. Okay, we're done. Once you're happy with the settings, just hit continue. As you can see, if you selected the optional deployment, the app automatically deploys additional groups. If your initial group should contain a villain, now's the time to deploy them. Just click or tap enemy and select the villain. There you go. Now you can build the map, place the figures according to the diagram and read the mission briefing. Do not read any further, you're only allowed to read the events once you trigger them. That's it, you're ready to play now. How to do this is covered in the third video. Again, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching and see you in the next tutorial.